So I finished the great TCM Star of the Month Lana Turner Watchathon. I literally okay. Um, they showed 44 Lana Turner movies, and I'd seen a handful of them, but of the ones I hadn't seen, which I already now can't remember how many it was, uh, I missed two in the first week because I wasn't dedicated enough in the first week, and um, then I dedicated my entire vacation to watching Lana Turner movies, pretty much. So I've seen a lot of movies in December, and they're almost all Lana Turner movies. But I'm gonna count real quick. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So, of the 44 Lana Turner movies, I watched 31 of them that I had never seen before. I missed two that I hadn't seen before, and all the rest I'd seen. Um, and I rewatched Postman Always Rings Twice because that movie is fantastic. For the last 3 days, all I've been doing is watching Lana Turner movies. As you've probably noticed if you watch all these videos, in the last 3 days, I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 Lana Turner movies in 3 days. It's averaging about 5 a day. So today I did watch 5, yes, and I spent this is what I did with my day, and this is what I'm going to talk about now. Some of them were better than others, as often is the case. The first one I watched was 1955's The Prodigal. It was one of many films Warner Brothers released about 10 years ago in these sets they called Camp Colt or Colt Camp, and it was like they had a bunch of different ones, and this was the crazy biblical adaptations one. This was an MGM CinemaScope extravaganza directed by Richard Thorpe, and it was about the prodigal son story from the Bible. And Lana Turner is Samara, the high priestess that tempts Micah, the bad son, away from his but should be betrothed Ruth. And he goes through all this stuff and loses his money, and eventually gets away from the spoilers for the Bible, gets away from the pagans and comes back to the Church of Abraham. Or the God of Abraham, sorry, the church. This movie was kind of boring until the last 20 minutes, and then it was amazing, and there were like women wearing weird animal masks telling a story, and there was one of them was a lion, and then the ones that were like rabbits and things started beating the lion, and then the drapes got closed by women wearing Siamese cat heads, and it was amazing. Also, there's a moment where Lana Turner is almost naked in this beautiful, like, beaded crystal dress that was quite great. And then the Micah character single-handedly kills or barehandedly kills a vulture that's trying to eat him while he's in a pit of bones. That was great. If the whole movie were as good as those moments, I'd recommend it. Otherwise, I would say this is for the lovers of camp only. The next film I watched, I heard was not a good film, but I really enjoyed it, and this was Diane. It looks like Diane, but it's Diane. She's French. And it's about Diane de Poitiers, Countess de Brézé. She was a very interesting French woman. This story sort of takes her story and changes it a little bit, but interestingly, the screenplay was written by Christopher Isherwood, and he made it a little gay at a couple of moments, and I really enjoyed that. But basically, Diane first she helps out. She begs King Francis to help her father and her husband, King Francis I. He does. He also listens to her great advice and marries off his son to Catherine de Medici. His son played by Roger Moore, Medici played by Marissa Pavin. Eventually, her husband thinks he's cheating on her with the king and like kicks her out. She's like, whatever, and then she's stuck teaching the king's son how to be a good person and sword fight and things, and that scene was really good. But then everyone thinks that they're lovers, and they're not, but then later they are, and shenanigans ensues, and war ensues, and people die, and eventually, spoiler alert, but this is the best part of the movie. Roger Moore's character gets like jousted right in the eye with a joust, just like right in the eye, and it was amazing. And that's how he dies. And in this movie, she gets to have a goodbye, and the two women who were rivals like are now friends or whatever. In real life, she did not get to say goodbye, and they banned her and banished her, and they did not respect each other. And really, she just was a much more interesting character than is portrayed here. However, I really enjoyed this film and I recommend it. And Lana Turner gets to fence and wears some of her best costumes ever. The next film I watched, and this was David Miller, was the director of that one. The next film I watched was 1961's By Love Possessed. It's John Sturges trying to do sort of a Circean melodrama, but I'll say this once and I'll say it many times. Cirque was able to take this trashy stuff and make it much better because he inserted a lot of complex themes and also never told you how to feel. He just presented feelings. A lot of these melodramas try to tell you how to feel about the situations and they try to moralize, and that's when you lose the audience and that's when the film falls down into just not being great. This film did not age well. Lana Turner's character is an alcoholic because her husband, played by Jason Robards, was in a car accident and now cannot have sex. But they don't say that, but they basically imply that he's a cripple is what they keep saying. The other character, she starts having an affair with his partner, played by Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., whose wife is the ever-suffering Barbara Bel Geddes, who always plays suffering characters. Their son is played by George Hamilton. He refuses to marry Thomas Mitchell's ward, played by Susan Kohner, who later, spoilers, commits suicide because George Hamilton's character gets arrested for attempted rape of Yvonne Craig, even though she fakes it, and they slut shame her, and then he tries to run away from it all, and then everything ends up just crazy. And it sounds as not as bad as it is because it's not great. And it just is, and it tells you how to feel about all the characters instead of just presenting characters, and I don't like that in movies. The next one I watched, I really enjoyed. This was 1965's Love Has Many Faces, directed by Alexander Singer and written by Marguerite Robertson. In it, Lana Turner is a very rich woman living in Acapulco with her new husband, Cliff Robertson, when a beach boy, like a gigolo, washes up dead, and it turns out it was her ex-lover that she was with before they were married, supposedly. Meanwhile, Hugh O'Brien, another beach boy, is trying to break up their marriage because he wants in on her money, but Cliff Robertson really loves her. But then the ex-lover's girlfriend, played by Stephanie Powers, shows up. First, she wants to know why her boyfriend died, and then she starts making eyes at Cliff Robertson's character. Meanwhile, Hugh O'Brien, who's trying to break up Lana Turner's relationship, is also having a thing with Ruth Roman, who's fantastic. And then in the mix of all of this is Virginia Gray, who doesn't really get to do much except wear really great hats. She was a good friend of Lana Turner's. They met in one of their early films together in the late 30s, and they made like 8 films together because they were lifelong friends. And this is one of those films set in Mexico that actually treats Mexico like a wonderful place and doesn't infantilize anybody presented who is Mexican, which I thought was refreshing. It also really made me want to go and hang out in like the mid-century again. So I gotta love those mid-century apartments and art directions. And at one point, Lana Turner stares down a charging angry bull, and she just doesn't even break a sweat. So she's really a Wonder Woman in and of herself. This was Love Has Many Faces. Has a great theme song. And the last one I watched, 1976's Bittersweet Love, is also directed by David Miller. It looks like it was made on a shoestring budget. It's actually preposterous. It's one of those movies where everyone involved, you're like, why? Has Lana Turner and Celeste Holm in it. And you're like, ugh. Basically, two people meet, they fall in love, they get pregnant, they decide to get married. She meets her new husband's family in Canada. Her parents are unable to come. Later, her parents, played by Lana Turner, sees the picture of her with her new father-in-law and realizes that that's the man she had an affair with in 1944, and that she is the daughter of her new husband's father. They are half brothers and sister. They're about to have a baby together. She tries to break it up. the two married couples are like, no, we have to be together. And you're like, this is not going to end well. And as you can suspect, it does not end well. But it has some interesting things to say about specifically the plight of women in the 40s and pre-abortion. However, I don't know that it quite says great things about the ability to actually have an abortion, because it doesn't really go through with the theme that it kind of arose with, like, we didn't have any options in the 40s, now we have options, but then they don't follow through with the options. Spoilers. And it doesn't end well for anybody involved. But Lana Turner, in all of these movies, like I've said many times, she wears scarves, she wears turbans, she looks amazing no matter what. So, that's really all that matters. I have 9 Lana Turner movies left to find and watch, and then I'm done with her filmography, or her feature film filmography, and then I'm going to cry because she's brought me a lot of joy, and she's a great actress, and I think you should check out all of her films.